I love hammers. They're not my favourite weapon class, but they're always gonna be reliable. They have good poise, good speed, good damage, good scaling, so what's not to love? Well, there's one that I certainly don't love. I always knew it was going to show up in this series eventually, and that hammer is Varys Bouquet. You can get this either from killing him at the first step of Rose Church, or after doing his quest in Mogwin's Palace, and since you get it just before the Lord of Blood himself, you might think we're getting quite a nice little juicy blood weapon. You won't. It does have bleed, but it's not very nice. Or juicy. But before we go into why, let's look from a bit of a glass half full perspective and see what's good about this weapon. There's actually quite a few pros with this weapon. I'll start with some of the more minor stuff though. It does have a sort of unique Ash of War and blood tax. Well, obviously it's not actually unique, as it can be put on stuff like rapiers, straight swords, katanas, etc. But it can be put on hammers. It's decent. It procs speed quickly, but there's nothing to really write home about. It's also the lightest hammer, but its later issues do make just getting the hammer the far better option, especially when the war pick is only 0.5 units heavier. Although, one like earnestly good quality about it is that it does have insane bleed build up. At 99 arcane, it has 141 bleed build up compared to 117 on most bleed infused weapons. Although, again, way better damage on those bleed infused weapons. It also can be buffed with spells or grease, so if you slap down some bleed grease or blood flame, you're getting some pretty decent bleed build up, just not too much, only like 191. Like, I won't proclaim it to be good in PvP since I have done a few invasions, but I've never tried this out in PvP. But it is good in NPC fights. Also, this is entirely subjective, but I do just think blood tax is a lot of fun. It's fun to spam it on low poison and you just unlock one. Out of every weapon I've ever covered, this weapon has the most substantial like positive factors. So what pushes it so far down into consideration for worst Elden Ring weapon? Got you, didn't I? Well, now that I have your attention, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe. I'm trying to hit 100 by the end of the month, and that's obviously only possible with your help, so any support is much appreciated. But I'll be nice, I'll take you back to the normal video now. That's the damage. You knew it was damage when you clicked on this video. Varys Bouquet has the worst base damage in the game at plus 10. 112 fucking damage. The Morning Star does 113 physical damage when bleed infused at plus 3 out of 25. See this footage you're watching of me fighting Malekith? That's at plus 99. In strength, dexterity and arcane. The weapon has an E in strength, C in dex. Huge shout out to whatever genius at Fromsoft made the hammer scale better with dex, by the way. And a B in arcane. And comparing this to a Blood Morning Star, which does have less bleed build up and can't be buffed, the difference in damage just makes it fully obsolete. It might proc bleed 2 hits quicker than the Star, sure, but the Star is just going to be doing way more damage in the first place. Like, I really can't emphasise enough how god awful this weapon is. The Smith Script Dagger has higher damage. There is not, and never will be, a reason to use this weapon unless you're going for a fucking Vary cosplay build. And why would you do that? There are weaker Moog guys. Fucking, well, Anne's back, Moog himself, fucking Esgar, and there are easier ways to proc Lord of Blood's Exaltation and far better options for bleed. It doesn't even get the highest build up in the game with the bleed grease. Bloodfiend's Arm still takes that with a blood infusion, and it does a tiny bit more damage. And if you're trying a bleeding main boss, give up! And before you comment, oh, but It's an arcane blade with him, it shouldn't need to be useful against it. That's not his job. The Mogwin Sacred Spear suddenly useless against Radagon? So, basically, Varys Bouquet should be avoided at all costs and serves no purpose. To be upfront, I don't think this is worse than Soldering Iron, but there is a question raised. Is it worse than Ivory Sickle? Let's get a little comparison running. First, let's go with the advantages Sickle has over the Bouquet. At 99 in all offensive stats, Tom Clark's Wetmare calculator, which is a lifesaver for this series, shows that the Sickle has a clear base damage advantage. Speed, obviously. As a dagger, the Ivory Sickle will be way faster than the hammer, so you can get your terrible damage in way quicker. And consistency. Varys Bouquet has a higher ceiling than the Ivory Sickle, but its floor is far, far lower. Ivory Sickle will always roughly be producing the same quality of shit, now for the advantages the Bouquet has over the Sickle. The status build up. Despite everything I've said and the fact that there are many better options for bleed that combine bleed with damage, the bleed build up on the Bouquet is still very good. The skill, well, Blood Tax isn't some S tier masterwork, it is better than fucking Quick Step. And the poise damage. This is, well, similar to speed, this is more of a class advantage, but hammers just do way more poise damage than daggers. Obviously there will be a difference in performance per boss. I do think the abysmal performance against bleed resistant bosses and just straight up horrific damage means that Varys Bouquet will be leaving here as the current worst weapon in Elden Ring. This was still a hard decision. It's like comparing Blasphemous Blade and Bloodfiend's Arm, except in reverse. Thanks for watching, I appreciate it a lot. I wasn't really satisfied with the quality of the last video, so I decided to upload this week. But I think what I'll do is I'll probably do 2 weekly uploads, then a break. So there won't be a video next week, but then the week after that there will be a video. Probably on the perfume bottles as a whole, or the Jagged Ghostblade, and that's those one. I'll decide later. Either way, yeah, thanks for watching. Subscribe, share, comment, like, etc. Tell me how I'm wrong. But yeah, I appreciate you watching to the end. Hellspin out.